Here we go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent. I can hear you too. So we've done it. We're on our first live stream. It's Conservative Duluth, or Duluth Conservative with Shawn and Dave. And we've got a bunch of topics to go through and not much time to do it because I have a meeting to attend at 7 o'clock. So let's run right into it, shall we?
Absolutely.
All right. So first I want to talk about health a little bit because I want to start out every live stream with some health news and just to keep ourselves accountable. So this week I ran at least twice since last Thursday, and I worked out twice with weights. How about you?
Just once with weights. It's been miserably cold, and I've been too afraid to leave the house. So I've failed this last week.
You don't like 27 below?
Not a big fan. The truck didn't start a couple days ago, so we got that problem fixed. So once I get one other project done, it'll be headstrong into the gym.
Awesome. All right, everybody should be moving a little bit. Even if you're not doing everything, do what you can and do more than you did last week, and it'll be good.
And remember, 2 pounds a week is the typical what you should be losing if that's your goal to lose weight. Anything more than that, if you're losing 2 pounds a day, that's not healthy. Don't do it.
I agree.
That's what we've repeated 1,000 times on this show. So,
but this is our first podcast, so nobody's heard it.
Nobody's
tried.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go on, and nobody knows about this yet because this is our first one, but in this podcast, we're going to go through 4 sections. We just did the health one. It's going to be a very brief section, but it's just to remind people to get going and go and working out. And then we're going to go through Duluth, Minnesota local news. We're going to go to Minnesota state news, and then we're going to do federal news, and then whatever else we can get in. Today we have a hard deadline of 45 minutes, so let's run into it right now. So the first thing I want to talk about in Duluth is this kind of trails into the Minnesota stuff, but we'll get into that to a bit. But we have absolutely no representation in Duluth in our Minnesota House right now. Our 2 elected representatives have decided to sit this out. In fact, all the Democrats have decided to sit out now, this first 2 weeks now. And what's happening is the Republicans have a quorum of 67 sitting Minnesota representatives. There's a total of 133, and 67 is more than half of that, so they have a quorum, and that's their position. The Democrats' position is you don't have a quorum because there is actually 134 people, although we put forward a candidate who wasn't qualified to run in the district they were in, so they've gotten removed. So it depends on your interpretation of law, and that has all gone to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and that's happening right now. That was actually just today on Thursday that they started hearing arguments about that. But let's just focus in on Duluth now. We'll go back to that later. What are you thinking, Dave? We don't have any representation in the East End or the West End of Duluth because the Democratic Party has told them not to go, and they are just doing what they're told. How do you like that?
Yeah, it's sad that they're more invested in the party than they are the people that they represent. So the party says we're going to do this, and they do it. That's just sad.
All it would take is one member of the Democratic Party to break their party rule, and the rest of them would show up, because then they would have to say, okay, you have a quorum, you have 68 people. Okay, then I guess we can't fight it's a quorum then, but they won't do it. So none of them, they're all in lockstep. And that goes to show you, this is a party that had total control of the House, the Senate, governor, all the Supreme Court justices are appointed by Democrats. And they cannot take not being in complete control. They will not accept this. It's a 2-year term. That's it. Minnesota House is a 2-year term. They can't even accept not being in total control for 2 years. And I think it really shows something about their party and how they're unwilling to bend on anything.
Or even 2 weeks. So I looked up the official legislative Minnesota Constitution of the word quorum, and it breaks down to Section 13, quorum. A majority of each house constitutes a quorum to transact business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and compel the the attendance of absent members in a manner and under penalties it may provide. So it still doesn't say what a quorum is, because you can't use the word in the definition. So it doesn't say what it is, and that's Section 13 of Article 4, Legislative Department, Section 1.
Yeah, so I'm hoping next week as we get into our second episode, we can get people on that somebody knowledgeable about this can help us join this, or we can study about it before next week, because, well, it's going in front of the Supreme Court right now, actually. So they're arguing this all right now in front of them.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing. I watched just a tiny bit of it because I was working today. I just had it on in the background. But one of the things was the Minnesota House does not want the courts to jump into agreement about or a decision about this because they don't control the House. There's a separation of that power. So it's very interesting legal arguments if you're into legal stuff.
Correct.
All right, so let's move on to the second Duluth topic, which is the Cozy Bar. Everybody likes the Cozy Bar downtown, right? I'm old enough to remember when people used to live there and hang out on the roof and sit in lawn chairs while going to the bar. So it's been. When did it start on fire? Do you know?
According to the Northern News Now, it was. I have it here somewhere. It was like 2000 or 2021, I believe. Wait, sorry. A 2010 fire led to the building being condemned. Yeah. So 2010. So we've been staring at it for 15 years.
Yeah. So I know there was a big brouhaha about it being a historical landmark and stuff, and that's why it was having a problem being torn down. So it sounds like they've gotten past that, and they're going to tear that building down finally.
Well, that's a typical city thing. It's a historic building when they want it. It's condemned when they want it tore down. And it is on the National Register of Historic Places, therefore it shouldn't be torn down, but they're going to tear it down anyways, because rules are for you and I, not for them.
That's pretty much it. So it'll be nice to have that thing gone. Either fix it or tear it down, but don't let it sit in limbo for 15 years.
Right.
But that's what happened. And there's a lawsuit, and the city's paying money, and I guess we get to pay for that too.
It's only going to cost us, $2.5 million. So that's money well spent. Chump change to them. Yeah.
That's walking around money, man.
All right.
And the third thing I want to talk about for Duluth News was we have they're offered the job of city administrator to a guy. And he got a raise. So the current city administrator is making $173,000 to do this job, $174,000 basically. This new guy is getting $225,000. That's a pretty good jump.
Yes.
I mean, he's going to be the highest paid city employee in Duluth. Man, who said you can't get rich working for the government? $225? That's a good salary, man.
Yeah, I mean the national average is 53,000, and he'll be making basically 4 times that.
Yeah.
So we've turned our city into basically winning the Powerball.
That's great because the way they spin it is he's making $204,000 now, so $225. That's just a 10% increase. I mean, you can justify just about anything for that kind of logic. He's making this, and he's city administrator of St. Cloud. I don't want to disparage St. Cloud at all, but I'm not, that's not like the place I'm looking at. It's like, wow, we really need to be like St. Cloud.
But he is an educated person. He did get his lawyer degree.
Lawyer degree?
Whatever you want to call that. But he's earned money in the private sector for that. But if he wants to go into this into public service, there's going to be a little bit of drop in your income, basically. There should be.
He's getting a big bump here.
Yeah.
And especially over what we're currently paying the guy. So I guess it pays to go into government work.
Well, that's true. I mean, you look at Klobuchar, whose campaign will spend millions of dollars to get a $173,000 job.
Yeah, but she got to be on TV with President Trump on the inauguration. So there's that.
It was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand half of this. I mean, we're looking at the having run last year, 24 for Minnesota House. You know, we spent how much did we spend? Like 20 grand on that?
Correct.
On that, for a job that pays 50, I think.
Correct. In that range.
That was us. So the other side spent more than that, I believe. So that's we're basically spending the amount of money that you'd pay a person to do the job.
I believe Pete Johnson in West Duluth, District 8A, he spent $53,000 to get a $50,000.
Wow.
So,
and that's chump change compared to Natalie Zalesnikar's district. The Democrats spent over $1 million, I believe, to try to oust her. It's so desperate to oust her, and they brought a big local name to go against her, former judge. They went all out, and she stayed in, and she got more votes. She won by more votes this time than she did last time. So good job to her, but there's $1 million right there.
Correct.
To get one House seat, they're desperate. That's how desperate they are to hang on to power. And given what they did last year, they shouldn't have it.
And then they still don't show up to work.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like Pete Johnson. So he's a first timer. This is his brand new job. He's being called in. The people have elected him. And for him to sit out, there's just really no justification on it. In fact, which surprised me, and I don't know if you saw this, the Duluth News Tribune did a editorial on this, and they was scathing against these guys not showing up because they realized, there's representatives. They're representing districts. Duluth has 2 representatives. It's such a big city, and we have nothing. Nobody's representing us. So when it comes down to doling out money and doling out what needs to get done, there's no voice saying here's what needs to happen in Duluth, and that's just it's sickening. It's time to show up to work, do your job, or resign and let somebody else do a special election and get somebody else in that will do the job. Because you're just not willing to go and you're just doing what you're told. You're not much. I mean, we don't really need you as a representative because you're just doing what you're told, right?
Correct. Yeah. Well, we have. Luckily, we have Representative Pete Stauber on the federal level.
Yeah.
So he's representing Duluth, and he's actually representing because of the infrastructure bill that Trump had signed. He's making sure that still goes, so we can make sure that the Blatnick Bridge still gets repaired or replaced.
Yeah, we need that. I know Natalie is like the half of Duluth. Her district is over us. I think she spans the whole way, over to Hermantown, all the way up to up the lake. She'll look out for us too, what she can, but she's got to look out for her district too. And she does not, as good as she is, she doesn't know what Duluth needs. She's not the ear for Duluth, so we can't let it ride on her being there and doing the right thing. We need the people here, the people who know this place. I know Pete knows it. I don't know if Alicia knows it all. I'm sure she does. She grew up here, but I'm in her district. I've never seen her, so I don't know what she's doing.
And that's what Melissa Hortman, the head of the DFL, said. Instead of showing up down in St. Paul, they are going to, work the streets of their district to get the work done here. But I've yet to see a town hall meeting or any sort of announcement from either of them,
right,
to represent us, so we could talk to them, for them doing something for their paycheck.
Wouldn't that be nice? Earn your
Yeah.
money. All right, so let's move on to state information. I got so much. There's so much stuff that went on this week. It's crazy with the inauguration and everything. We'll get to it, but my God, let's talk about Minnesota. We touched a little bit on the Minnesota Supreme Court hearings on what is a quorum and is the current House session legal or not, and are they in session? And it doesn't need to come to this. If the Democrats would just show up to work, this would all be over and they could actually do stuff. We need a bonding bill. When they had control of everything in a majority, they just slammed things through.
Right.
Just because there'd be more Republicans than Democrats for a time. It may be when they have the special election, we'll have one more Republican. I don't know. But just for a time, the voting is the Republican side. That doesn't mean they're not listening to what the Democrats need or what they want. I don't know why they're not coming to work. So I think we covered that in enough detail, but it's going to the Minnesota Supreme Court. There was hearings on it today. I think they'll hear it tomorrow. I don't think they came to a decision today.
One thing that you brought up, Section 21 of the Minnesota Constitution is passage of bills on the last day of session prohibited. So when they did the bill last year, was that not illegal? Because the Republicans never got more than 2 seconds to even look at the bill.
Right. Yeah, it was like, I think it was like half hour or 10 minutes, 10 minutes, I think. So yeah, at some point that should be brought up too. And what would that mean? All the laws that they passed last time were nullified?
Well, any bill that was presented on the last day is gone. Because it's very clear that it's against the law, the state constitution, Section 21. So
they would have brought that up sooner, though. Yeah. So I wanted to touch on one thing. Did you see the video of this guy that interrupted the Capitol session a couple days ago with a bullhorn?
Yeah, I heard about that.
And I'm going to get a little more savvy at this, but I want to see if I can share this.
And I looked into that too, and that Section 25 of the state constitution, disorderly conduct. During a session, each house may punish it by imprisonment for not more than 24 hours any person, not a member, who is guilty of any disorderly or contemptuous behavior in its presence. Wow. They didn't arrest this guy who caused the disturbance, and they easily could have kept him for 24 hours.
Right. So let's see if I'll see if I can share this here. No, it's not letting me do a specific screen here. Oh, let's try this. Okay, can you see this?
Oh, yep, I can see that. Good job.
Too.
Whose house is this? You chicken meatball-headed motherfucker. Whose house is this? Whose house is this? Whose house is this? Get out there and kick me out. It'll be on every fucking news organization in the country.
So yeah, it's just a sample of this delightful man that's dressed up like a lady and has got severe mental problems getting in people's faces. I don't know what they think that helps. That's not helping anything. It's just antagonizing people, and it's not getting them on their side. I know that for sure. So that was a little bit of fun. I'm kind of glad I got to miss.
Yeah, I heard that Representative Finke actually sent the person there to disrupt, because he used a bunch of the word quorum a lot and stuff like that, which is the cheerleading of the Democrats right now. That's their word. It's quorum, and so
they said it was the will. They were trying to represent the will of the people. I'm trying to figure that out. I haven't gotten that through my mental process yet. how not showing up to work to represent your people is the will of the people. But,
Correct. And Representative Finke is also a trans person.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's a biological male, but he's every time I see him, he's either in a pantsuit or a dress or something like that.
As long
So
as
that's why
shoes with his dress, it's fine.
Yeah. So, which is is irrelevant, but that explains why that gentleman showed up to disrupt the court and why he should be in jail right now. Because if you watch the whole video, you can see a sheriff in the background who didn't do anything about it, which he should have.
They removed him sooner or later, didn't they?
Well, I read one place that they let him talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, with a bullhorn in people's faces, shouting profanity, which time to go. Time to get these guys out.
Yeah, definitely.
Another piece of Minnesota news, not in Minnesota, but a Minnesota native who was a Border Patrol agent was killed in the line of duty in Vermont. Now, I was trying to find out exactly what happened or who was involved, and I don't know who actually did the shooting, but it just shows you how dangerous it is to be a Border Patrol agent in this country. And
Correct.
Which people will go to get to not leave. I'm guessing it was a criminal of some sort, obviously, because he killed the man, but I don't know if it was an illegal alien or if it was just somebody who didn't want to be pulled over or what, but pretty sad that you just go to a random call and get shot in the face. Pretty sad.
Yeah, is spending the rest of your life in jail better than the country you'd go back to?
Yeah, maybe. That's a good question. And, here's a fun one, Dave. You're going to like this one. Minnesota has joined many other states in trying to block the birthright citizenship executive order by Donald Trump. So he came out with an executive order that said birthright citizenship is not a guaranteed thing when you're in this country, specifically targeting people who are here illegally coming in and having an anchor baby. An anchor baby being, hey, I'm here, I had a baby, now that baby's a U.S. citizen, now I get to stay. That's why they're called anchor babies.
Correct.
So a number of states have decided that they know the federal constitution better than the federal government does. So they've brought lawsuits up, not the ACLU, not the, any other group like that. It's the actual state. So you and I are paying for this lawsuit. And so what are some of the states you think would be involved with this?
Well, if I was to guess, it would be blue states.
So
all states that have nothing to do with immigration.
Yeah.
Like Minnesota, we're far enough away from the border where.
No. Our northern border is on a border country, and Canada is letting people flood in through there too. But California, Massachusetts, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii. That one I'm really scratching my head on. Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, Wisconsin, and New Jersey. Why? I'll tell you what, another question I have is, if California has gone on this lawsuit, why are we involved with it? Why is Minnesota jumping onto this? It seems like it's being taken care of, so why do we have to add to it? Why is this such a high priority for us? And who is asking for this too? Which one of our representatives has said, my constituents are very concerned about this and we need to look into it? Or is this just another one of those things that the governor has got in a bee in his bonnet and decided that we're going to do this?
Right, and I don't believe the states even have standing to even sue on this, because immigration has always been a federal issue, not a state issue.
Right.
So, the federal dollars are pouring in to help them pay for immigration. So
Right.
what does it, what does it matter to the state? I don't understand. I personally don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
We
some
don't have
constitutional issue. Well, it's a federal constitutional issue. Then it's not anything to do with the states.
Correct. So we shouldn't be spending any money, any taxpayer money, to sue over something that
Right.
they have no standing over.
Yeah, this is just something that is not a fight that needs to be fought by Minnesota, and we
Correct.
don't need to pay for it either. And it's just another example of wasting more of our money to do the virtue signaling that they want. The one thing I'll sidetrack into is that the border czar has said that if you get in his way, any state official at any level, he will arrest you. And we're going to see just how much moxie these guys have that are all fire and brimstone right now when it comes down to the federal agents coming to their house and arresting them for obstruction.
Correct.
That'll be very interesting. And it's not everything is a federal issue, but immigration, like you said, immigration and border security is a federal mandate. That's what they get to do.
Yeah.
And if you stand in their way of that, then they get to prosecute you. So.
And I agree with Trump that being born here shouldn't automatically make you a citizen, being an anchor baby. But the 14th Amendment very specifically says, Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law that abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. So it very specifically says states don't get involved.
Right. But you said something there too that, read that again. Can you read that from the beginning again?
14th Amendment, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Stop. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. If you're here illegally, you're not subject to the jurisdiction. I don't think. Now, this is where I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's the clause that they're looking at. If you're here illegally, this was meant to make sure that, I believe, again, I'm no expert on this, I believe it was for slavery, so that the people who were here as slaves could then be natural citizens.
Yes, and that's what I was reading most of the time, was amendments aimed at addressing issues related to formerly enslaved individuals after the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And that was the main reason for the 14th Amendment.
Now, I could see them, instead of being an executive order, I would like to see this go through as an amendment to that amendment.
Correct. I agree with Trump, but I disagree with how he's trying to get it accomplished.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just a way to start the process, to get the lawsuits going, to see. But I don't know that he's going to win on a constitutional issue like this, because I don't think it's written clear enough for him to win on this. That being said,
I'm
spending our money to prevent it. Let somebody else do it.
Correct. Yeah, so the state shouldn't be involved in that one.
Right. Moving on. There's going to be a special election for the Senate control. So one of the senators who just got reelected has passed away. Carrie Diesdick?
Yep. Something like that, yeah.
December 27, 2024. And so I think they were, again, I'm not sure if they were deadlocked or right now they're deadlocked, and they're going to, this is going to decide who gets to be in charge, I believe. So the special election is coming up on January 28th. And see if you find this sounding familiar at all. There's two people running, and one of them is Doran Clark, and Clark is a community organizer, and that's Democrat. And the opponent, the Republican, is Abigail Wolters, and she's a software engineer. That sounds familiar to something I've heard of.
Yeah.
But if this isn't going to tell you pretty much how it's going to come out, Zick or whatever her name was, ran unopposed last time, winning 98.7% of the vote. So you really should be winning 100% of the vote if you're running unopposed, but 98% is pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Last time the seat was contested in 2020, she defeated somebody named Mary Holmberg, 85.7 to 14.1%. I thought the ratios in Duluth were bad at
Right.
70-30. 85 to 14. It's going to be a tough row to hoe. Now, with all the stupidity the Democrats are doing in both the House and the governor and everything else, you never know. You can't tell.
Right.
But I'm guessing this district is going to go District 60. Will maybe go to the Democrats, but I hope it's a battle. I hope it's a well-fought battle. I don't know anything about the two candidates. I can't speak to them except for what their occupation is. But it'd be interesting one to watch.
Definitely, definitely worth watching.
And going back to the Minnesota House, the Democrats are just assuming they're going to win the race, the special election that they have to have because they entered in an invalid candidate and had to kick him out. They just assume they're going to win it. And that's the thing about the Democrats. They really do assume that people will always vote for them no matter what they do.
Correct.
Unfortunately, in Duluth, they're pretty much right. They have been so far. Something's got to shake that loose pretty soon, though.
Yeah, how bad do things have to become in Duluth for people to start not voting for Democrats? I mean,
great question. And
you're being undertaxed, you're underserviced. You have lead in your pipes dating back. You have bad potholes going down the road. Yet you still keep voting the same people in that created this problem.
Yeah. Well,
so at what point do you say enough is enough?
Yeah. Yeah, and the taxes are just outrageous here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just not getting anything. Our representatives aren't pulling anything for us. I mean, this last session, the lady, the one that was in 8A, she just quit. There was no representation for like 6 or 8 months, something like that. Just
right.
Out. I'm not seeing a lot of stuff coming into the East End. I'm not seeing any help coming in there. But hey, keep hitting yourself and wondering why you're in pain, I guess.
Correct.
All right. We'll move on to national. There's so much stuff that happened this week. And I was sitting there watching the Trump inauguration on Monday and just loving every freaking minute of it. So far, I was sitting there like at 7 a.m. It hasn't even started yet. And I'm watching like BBC because they're the only ones broadcasting. And then the inauguration came on and I watched that. And I'm sitting there just waiting. When are the executive orders going to get signed? Right. They talked about doing 200 the first day, right? And it was getting kind of late. That guy worked into the night. And then the next night too, he was working past 9 o'clock at night, signing these orders. And I got to tell you, I'm liking a lot of these executive orders that he's signing.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one, and I didn't put this on the itinerary, but it's affirmative action by Lyndon Johnson. He struck that down for the federal government. So now this has been something our entire lives. This happened right before we were born. And this is like now 3 generations of people that are going into this. I think that it's enough. I mean, people talk about reparations. There's a whole lot of stuff that's been done for reparations. One of them was the Equal Opportunity Act, which is clearly unconstitutional and racist policy. And
correct.
You can justify it by going, okay, they had a really bad time. The black people had a lot of bad time, and slavery was a horrible thing. And this is a kind of an equalizer for reparations. But after 57, 58 years, I think it's done. I think we're ready to now do the merit system, do it based on
right.
abilities. And I think it's really insulting that they think that anybody of any color or any nationality or race needs that extra help now. I think I would be insulted.
Yeah, you're correct. It's very insulting.
So I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad they took care of it. And it's good. It'd be good. It'd be good to have people getting hired for a job that they're qualified for. And I don't think it's going to change anything as far as people getting hired either. I mean, as far as, all of a sudden nobody's hiring this kind of person, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it's going to hire, if you can do the job, great, come on, let's do the job.
Yeah, people are hiring because they want the best person for that position.
Yeah, right.
And it's simply as that, and it's going to continue that way for, everybody except for maybe government jobs. You're still going to have the holdouts that are going to, coddle to people that can't do the job.
Well, that was what this act was for. I mean, that's where he got rid of it. It's for the government. So theoretically it won't. Now, I did see that him eliminating DEI, they've had people listed as like the chief DEI officer shuffled over to different positions. So they're not getting rid of them. They're just moving them to different locations, which the internet remembers everything.
Correct,
you're not going to be able to do that. People are going to figure it out. So there's a lot of people that are just tuned into stuff like that and will say, hey, here's a screenshot from 3 years ago. And your question is, why do you have a screenshot of that from 3 years ago? But they do.
That's right.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's your job at work, is to archive everything on the internet.
Right. And it's not a job. It's just what they do. So I wanted to talk, I got this stuff listed up for national. And one of the things I want to talk about is I happened to listen to the NPR this morning. I listen to the classical station. I like to listen to the music, but then they came on with the news break, which I rarely ever get, but I got it. And the amount of propaganda that is still being done on that news channel. And here's an example. So they talked about Donald Trump's immigration policy and some of his executive orders. And then they had to send in there, because they went to a man on one of the news reporters. And he had to say, and also Trump made several false statements about countries sending mental patients and criminals to the United States, clearing out the mental institutions and the jails. Your job as a reporter would be to say that Trump made these following statements, not Trump made these following false statements, because you don't know as a reporter. You don't know that, and that's editorializing. That's not reporting.
Correct.
But they do it, and it's subtle. It's small. And it just grains into people's heads. They don't really realize it's happening because it's just little shots like that. And again, what was their main focus of the news stories? Well, we're going to talk about these pardons for the January 6th people, the people that were at the Capitol that day and entered the building. That is not the most important thing that's happened in the last couple of days. There's so many things to talk about other than that, but that is the focus, because they're trying to drive the narrative to that. They don't talk about Biden's pardons. If they're going to talk about pardons in general, they don't talk about Biden pardoning his entire family, basically, or the January 6th committee. Well, why are you pardoning them for something that shouldn't be criminal anyway? And if you're afraid of them going to trial and persecuting them like you persecuted Donald Trump and a bunch of conservatives the last 4 years, it should wash out in the trial, right? I mean, Donald Trump was persecuted and he still came out clean. He came out basically no charges or charges dropped.
Correct.
Unless it was a fixed judge. So it just seems like, they're focusing on that. They're focusing on Elon Musk doing this salute, they say is a Nazi salute, which is just ridiculous. And they're just trying to keep talking about it. I don't understand it. And I don't want to keep talking about it either, but I just want to point out that's how news organizations mold your brain into thinking what you're thinking, is because they do little subtle things in the reporting and they talk about the same issues that don't matter to you.
Yeah, and they even brought up Walz when he was running for vice president. He tapped his chest twice and did the Nazi salute. So he did exactly the same thing, but they're not presenting that as, balanced reporting.
Right.
They're just doing it as to present their point.
Yeah. I also I would like to ask somebody, what do you think it happens when you do a Nazi salute? Is it like Beetlejuice? You do it 3 times to conjure up Adolf Hitler and all of a sudden he's back in power or something?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a stupid salute, and it's not the first time that salute was used throughout history. But everybody freaking acts like that is the only thing that ever happened in the world. Is
Right.
that, and horrible stuff happened. Nobody's doing a Nazi salute and being serious about it. Even if they were, who cares? Why do you care so much?
Yeah.
It doesn't make me think, oh God, yeah, I should go start boot stomping people because yeah, I can do this fast salute. It's mind numbing. It's boggling to me.
Right. And I looked up Biden's pardoning of his whole family. And according to the Constitution, the power to pardon, as outlined in Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, is specifically for offenses against the United States after conviction. This means the individual must have been legally charged and convicted before a pardon can be granted. So what he did was also illegal and immoral. He gave one to Dr. Fauci. Well, he hasn't been convicted of anything. He hasn't even been charged with anything yet.
No.
So that pardon is null and void.
It's how do we even call it a pardon? They haven't even investigated him for anything yet.
Correct.
I mean, it's basically immunity. It's like he's an ambassador. You're given immunity to anything. And it goes back to what, 2014? Why 2014? What happened in 2014? Well, that's when Ukraine got overthrown and Zelensky got put in as the little dictator. And if you don't want to call him a dictator, you should look up what he's done since he's been in power. They froze elections. They've been abolishing churches. He's been making political parties that are against him illegal. He is as close to little Hitler as you can get.
Correct.
He's about the same size too. So he needs to grow a little mustache though, don't you think?
Yeah, that would be a little bit more appropriate.
Maybe he could style it up and do the two sides instead of the one in the middle.
Yeah, we need a modern day Hitler is what we need.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to go through a couple more things. I'm going to pass through a couple, but I heard a talk yesterday, and Trump was bringing up the guy who owns Oracle, Ellison.
Larry Ellison.
Larry Ellison. Yeah, the guy from SoftBank and another guy there too, and they were talking about investing money into the United States. That's good. He was talking about doing massive AI centers and bringing it to America. Okay, I know a lot about AI, having studied it, but it freaked me out hearing Larry Ellison talk about producing AI-generated vaccinations that are targeted to a person that can go in and kill your cancer or whatever with mRNA stuff. No, thank you. Hard pass. I want nothing to do with that. And I don't want this creep near me, by the way. I don't know if you saw him. He glitched. I don't know if it was my TV or him, but he said the same exact sentence the same exact way twice, and it freaked me out. I think he might be a robot. And the guy from SoftBank's right next to him. The guy makes robots.
Yeah, so they're not rich enough. They need to line their pockets and with something that more experimental.
Why are all these technology guys trying to get into the vaccination business? Bill Gates, they're not medical people. I know a doctor who is adamantly against these vaccines and COVID injection too. And he'll give you good reasons why. He's a doctor, like a real doctor. So let's see. I'll talk about this first. The Lake and Riley Act passed the Senate and is being sent to Trump today. So that is the act that if you commit a crime in America, you're a legal immigrant, you get deported. Any crime. And we actually had people voting against this.
And they were all coincidentally Democrats.
Right. And it's crazy. I don't know why you'd vote against this. It shows you who believes that United States citizens are third-class citizens. You got your actors and politicians. You've got your cause du jour, if that's, a race or a sex or a gender or some sort of thing. And then you've got us, the people that just get to pay for it all and shut up and do it and like it.
Correct.
And I'm so tired of these guys being in office and doing this. And I'm so happy of what the current Trump administration is doing and how Gen Z seems to be maybe the most conservative generation in my lifetime. It sounds like. So, and that's the natural backlash. If you go way too far one way, you will get slapped back the other way pretty hard. And we have been hard left the last 10, 15 years. And why is that, Dave? It's because Obama took away the rule, or under his administration, in World War II, we had a law passed that said you couldn't propagandize, the government can't do propaganda against US citizens. And during Obama administration, that law was nullified. And ever since then, it's been going downhill, in my opinion. And I think they've been using it to their utmost to really, really screw up this country.
Correct.
So
they're trying to turn it into something that I don't know of.
mm-hmm. It's not the place that we grew up in.
Correct. And I don't know why they would change the greatest country on earth, but
right.
They're not happy about something.
Right. All right, I got to wrap it up because I have another meeting I have to attend at 7, but I want to leave on this one thing that our Senator Omar, or Congresswoman Omar, I don't know where she is, calls the immigration policy anti-American. It's the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. She's calling that an un-American act. I'll let you look that up and we'll maybe talk about it next week. But my mind is blown on that one. So, all right. I think that's all we got for tonight. We will be back live next Thursday and more of our regular time of probably 7 o'clock. All right. So
good.
If you have comments or suggestions, please leave them. We will read them and maybe change up what we're talking about next week and maybe hopefully have some guests. All right.
Good plan.